Okay guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this episode I'm going to take a look at the Big Lebowski from 1998. It has an 82% on the tomato meter rating, certified fresh, and a 94% on the audience score. So why am I taking a look at this film? Well, according to Rotten Tomatoes, this is not a rotten film. According to Rotten Tomatoes, this is one of the greatest movies of all time, particularly in regards to the audience score. So, I don't get it. I saw this when it came out on cable at some point, when it was probably more than 2 or 3 years old. I've heard rave reviews about it, how awesome it is, how it's the greatest comedy movie of all time, perhaps the greatest American film of all time. I don't see it. I found it just mildly amusing and quirky in places, but largely boring and forgettable. And I'm not saying it's rotten. It didn't strike me as deserving to be rotten, but it just strikes me funny every time I hear it referenced by somebody that's a cult follower, by somebody that tells me it's like some pinnacle of filmmaking art. I don't get it. I know art is subjective, but what I want to do is I want to take a look at what the audience reviews say that do not say it's a 4 or 5 star film. In other words, I'm going to take a look at audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes that give it 3 stars or less. I'm going to ignore all the others because this would be like beating a dead horse to me just to read all the 5 star ones, because you can go on Reddit or any other YouTube channel and hear somebody sing the praises of this movie. And I have researched this quite well to find out just why I'm missing something here. I don't know. I still haven't figured it out. To me, this is boring and forgettable, largely. So let's go ahead and look through the audience reviews. And like I said, this is still relevant because we have, a movie made in 1998. As of November 1st, 2019, this has reviews. Again, 5 stars, 4 stars, etc., etc. And I'm just going to keep going through until I find stars that are low enough for me to comment. Here's one at 3.5 stars, the lowest I've seen so far, from August of 2019. Even though this quickly became a cult classic, it's too weird and rambling to be truly great. Of course, there are some truly great moments and infinitely quotable dialogue, but then there are all the parts people forget about. It's certainly worth a watch if you haven't seen it, just for the cultural touch point, but it doesn't even really have a point beyond, look at all the crazy stuff that's happening. This is what happens when quirky goes too far and doesn't have substance to back it up. Okay, I can kind of agree with that. It's quirky. I don't know if it goes too far. I just found it, mildly amusing at parts, but not certainly laugh out loud funny. I keep hearing stories in which people are telling me that they're just laughing and laughing and laughing, and they're not completely wasted or high. And I see the same film and I'm not laughing out loud. So I don't know. Let's continue on and find one that gives this less than 4 stars. What's funny is that one had 3.5 stars, and yet it kind of bagged on it. That's kind of odd. Most films, 3.5 stars, people are praising it. Here's one from August of 2019, 3 stars. Apart from a few good moments, not very funny. Okay, but I'm looking for more than that. I agree, but I'm just looking for a little more explanation about why they don't think this is the greatest film of all time. Yeah, that's kind of reverse logic. That's the opposite thing to normally do. But then again, to me, this film itself, its existence as some kind of cult film is like an anomaly, like I don't know what you call it, something that doesn't belong. We have 5 stars. I want a new movie, so funny. Okay, let's continue down. We have 4 stars. Okay, 2 stars. June of 2019. The whole plot made no sense. Not the best of movies. Actually, I disagree that the plot didn't make sense. The plot wasn't too hard to figure out. Even I could see that it was kind of like trying to follow along in a film noir sort of way. But again, I didn't see why that's so fantastic or why it was so unforgettably funny. if I had to rate this as a star rating, I would say it's 2 stars because it's forgettable to me, but it's not offensive. And I appreciate all the actors. I've seen all these actors in many other things. I like the actors. I like their work. I even like some of their work here. I just don't find it like so over the top that this deserves 5 stars. So let's move down. We've got some 4 stars. Wow, we are already on our third or fourth page. And again, like I said, this thing is just nothing mostly but people praising it. Here we have a 2-star review from January of 2019. Dragging with a bunch of disgusting, unlikable characters. Might have liked it if I had seen it 20 years ago and was totally high. 2-star for some witty and funny bits. Unfortunately, I knew all these weirdo characters in the 80s, so not entertaining. Well, I agree with the 2 stars. I also agree that it had some fun and witty bits. Now, I didn't know a lot of these characters in the 80s, but I could see like 2 of them. Yeah, they could be 2 people I knew well in the 90s, in the early 90s. In the 80s, I was in high school, so unless these are all high school age characters, that wouldn't apply. Unlikable, disgusting, unlikable characters, I disagree on that. They're not disgusting or unlikable. They're quirky and strange, sure. So let's move on. They said it was just, they were offended by the characters, so let's move on. 3 stars. There's some crazy-ass happenings for this guy. Yeah, the main character, this dude, he's like in a situation that he's, definitely not equipped for. But again, I don't see what the big deal about this is. Let's move on. 1/2 star, horrible waste of time, probably the worst movie I watched to the end, and Rotten Tomatoes gave it a high rating. Beginning to understand this site better. Well, here's somebody bagging on the site because, this got a high score and he doesn't know why. I don't agree because you can find this movie praised on almost every internet forum out there. I mean, just pick one, Reddit, pick any crazy forum I've never heard of, and people will describe this as the greatest movie of all time. That's why I'm here, to try to find out why. So I disagree that it's a problem with Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes does have a lot of issues, especially today in 2019. Again, this movie was made in 1998. So that's why I want to know why this still has all these 5-star ratings. And again, I'm not going to read through the 5-star ratings because they all mainly just repeat the same things, that they love the characters, it's so funny, etc., etc. Again, I just want to take the contrary position and find out why people would give it 1 star. For example, we have a 1 star from December 26th of 2018. I will preface this review by saying I am not a fan of bowling and I had high expectations based on what people who saw this movie have said. I generally enjoy screwball classics, but this was just painful to watch. The Coen brothers clearly have talent. It has something to do with visual style, offbeat characters, and engaging small talk, but there is just nothing here. It falls way short of something like Pulp Fiction. This movie is almost literally about nothing and not in a good and funny Seinfeld way. Well, they bring up the Coen brothers in this review, and to me they're hit and miss. Like, I really liked Raising Arizona. I liked it when it came out and I was barely out of high school and I thought it was hilarious. But other people tell me that they just don't get it and they can't sit through it. And along the same line with the Coen brothers, I've seen No Country for Old Men twice, and I don't get why it's such an iconic film and why people think it deserves all these awards and everything. I mean, I like the actors in it well enough. I just don't get what's so exciting about it. I don't get the point of it. To me, it felt like it had no point at all, that it was literally about nothing. And I know the plot well. The plot wasn't that complicated. I've seen it twice. So for me, No Country for Old Men, it doesn't rub me as strangely as this movie, because this movie is like got such a cult status that everywhere you go online people are praising it, whereas I often run into people that didn't enjoy No Country for Old Men. So although I don't like that one, I don't find it, shoved in my face as much. So let's continue. Pulp Fiction, again, I enjoyed it, but I don't think that's the best movie of all time either. I would give that like 3 stars, not 5 stars like some of these people. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. Let's move down here. We have one for December of 2018. Again, still very relevant for today. 2 stars. I give up on the Coen brothers, and I don't know why I even gave this movie a chance. I really dislike most all of their films. They just don't have good storylines at all. There are some cool comments here and there in their films, but that's it. Despite not liking the brothers' work, I finally gave The Big Lebowski a chance because everyone says how it's such a great movie. But it's not. It's hardly funny, and the plot is completely lacking in anything to draw you into the film. Yeah, I kind of sympathize with that. I didn't see this when it was new, but I heard people raving about it, and if I had watched this after a long day at work, I probably would have fallen asleep. But as such, it was just, early afternoon on a day off. I was well rested, so I could just sit through it and give it a chance. But like this person, I didn't find it, intriguing enough. I would have fallen asleep if I had been tired. So let's move on. We have some 4 stars. Okay, 3.5 stars. The Coens' most endearing film, perhaps, The Big Lebowski, was unappreciated upon release, but since has garnered a massive following. Jeff Bridges plays the ultimate slacker, Dude, whose sole purpose in life is to laze around in his room smoking pot or go bowling with his strange friends, a militant gun lover played by John Goodman, and a meek fellow portrayed by Steve Buscemi. One day he is mistaken for another man, a very wealthy man, with the same name by a batch of inept crooks who take his rug. Yeah, this is a synopsis, but again, they're not telling me why it even has 3.5. I guess this is part of a much longer review, but as I've said before in these other rotten reviews, I think you should be able to articulate everything within, a paragraph of this size. I don't believe we need to have a huge, long, rambling wall of text to get the point across, so I'm not going to worry about it. Here's another 3.5 star. Bridges' portrayal of the Dude is always a delight to watch, especially accompanied by Goodman. But I must admit that the plot kind of flew over my head in all of its absurdity. Also, some of the characters are just totally outrageous, especially more as Maud Lebowski, with her atrocious English impression. Still, The Big Lebowski is mostly engaging and occasionally funny, but its story demands suspension of disbelief. Yet the film is always smart in the way it tells its story. Okay, they're not totally bagging on it, but they're saying that a lot of the plot flew over their head. I didn't think the plot was that complicated. I just thought it was to me, it was boring. Maybe that's what they mean. 2.5 stars. The Big Lebowski is a 1998 crime comedy film written, produced, and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. This cult classic failed to impress me. While there are a few comic scenes and interesting dialogue, these are few and far between. I enjoyed the opening section, but then it went downhill from there, with some very slow-paced sections. Towards the end, it became silly and too unpredictable. After the film had ended, I realized that very little had actually happened in the film. Yeah, nobody disagrees that very little happens in the film. Even the people that sing this movie's praises, they all say this film is really plot-wise about not much at all. Okay, so again, I'm still trying to struggle with what's so incredible about it by looking at, people's bad impressions of it. Let's go down. We have 3.5 stars. September 11th, 2018. The Coens' most endearing film, perhaps. Okay, that's a repeat. Now, somebody else is repeating the same thing. I'm wondering why, but let's not wonder too long. Moving on. 3.5 stars. Ever seen Jesus play bowling? Well, yeah, that's a name of the character, but I don't see why that's so interesting. John Turturro, I think is his name. I first remembered him from the Transformer movie. I know he's been in a lot of other stuff, but he just strikes me as a weirdo. He always has. So seeing him as a weirdo in this movie, it didn't stick out to me really in any way because he's always been a weirdo to me. So, okay, moving on. 3 stars. The Coens' most endearing film. Okay, really? It's funny that, we've got a review posted 3 times now at least by the same person, and yet one's got Michael J for the name of the reviewer, and other has like Karen or some woman's name. So please, I don't know why we're getting fake reviews in 2018 on a movie that's 20 years old, or actually 30 years old. This is 1998, 2018, so okay, yeah, 20 years old. Why is my math so bad? I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with why I don't like the Big Lebowski. My math skills really suck sometimes. Somehow I doubt that's the reason, though. Let's see, here we go. We have 3.5 stars, June 10th, 2018. With fine performances from Goodman and Bridges, as well as a script that is on point, The Big Lebowski succeeds in delivering a good amount of laughs and entertainment. Okay, great, but why is it so awesome? You know, Coen brothers at their best, that's another 3-star, okay, 3.5 star. 2.5 star, Cometh the Hour, Cometh the Man, okay, there's people that are going to quote things from The Big Lebowski. I don't know if that is, but plenty of people quote things from it. As in, you'll also see plenty of memes posted online in forums that take their material from The Big Lebowski. Again, I don't get why it's all that, although I recognize it for what it is. Let's see. We have a 3-star review, April 25th, 2018. Say there's a man, The Big Lebowski. It is odd to encounter a sketchy comic feature by Coen brothers, and the exciting part is that they do pull it off, not like the other genre that they are familiar with, but the writing is quite powerful and funny at the same time. And on terms of execution, there is no doubt on that part as they score majestically on, okay, this isn't really telling me anything. It says Jeff Bridges is hilarious. Great supporting cast. Okay, yeah, but I'm not learning anything there. So let's move down. I've got another 3-star, March 4th, 2018. The Big Lebowski, a renowned stoner film, as well as a much celebrated cult favorite. Now for the million-dollar question, is it worth its status? That's why I'm here. To get the visual aspect out of the way, there really is nothing to write home about here. Sure, there are some nice shots here and there, but apart from a few nice locations and the occasional trippy special effect montage, scenes are generic. The story in The Big Lebowski is fairly unique, I'll bet for its significant unimportance, as said by the writers themselves. Again, they're saying, you know, it's a film that's not really about anything, nothing much happens, and that it's a stoner film. So there's my first clue, is that, you know, that's one vote at least, that you need to be high on marijuana to enjoy the film. I don't know if that's it, because lots of people that don't smoke marijuana have told me how great this thing is, so I'm going to put that as a vote for that, but I'm not making a judgment. I mean, I don't have enough evidence for that, certainly. 2.5 stars, a movie about nothing that's not funny. Okay, I agree, but again, you know, I need a little bit more. I want to find out just what it is I'm missing in this thing. 2 stars, December 26, 2017. I just didn't get it. What was the message? Yeah. I'm not sure there is a message. Nobody's told me there is a message. It's not a type of message type film. They've told me that it's mostly about nothing, that it's the characters they love so much. That's what I'm getting so far. So, yeah, what was the message? I don't think there is one. Let's keep going. Wow, we're several pages in. We are in December of 2017. I'm still seeing 5 stars all the way down. We have one, September 24th, 2017, 2 stars. So I heard so much about this classic, and I finally got to see it. I am not quite sure whether it's the length of the film or non-plot and the absurdity of it, but I still have the same reaction when it finished. WTF. Yeah, me too. I don't think it felt too long. You know, again, I say I might have fallen asleep if I had been a little bit tired, but it didn't feel too long to me. It just felt like there was something I wasn't getting out of this from what I heard. So anyway, let's move on. That's a vote for it was too long and it was too absurd. Half a star, August 17th, 2017. Total piece of shit. Okay, interesting, but I didn't think it was all that. That's like probably somebody wondering why this has been talked up so much. I didn't figure it was that bad. I just found it boring. 3.5 stars, unique film, very solid dialogue and jokes throughout, solid craftsmanship by the Coen brothers, threaded together by the performance of Jeff Bridges and John Goodman, reminding me of a Tarantino movie without the gore. I love movies that are fun to quote. I'm the dude, so that's what you call me. That or his dudeness or duder or El Duderino. If you're not into the whole brevity thing, the dude, this is what happens when you F a stranger in the ass, Larry. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of like it's the way, when I was 22 years old and me and my friends would sit around and, I don't know, do whatever, play video games and drink beer, we would talk like this. Um, and, that would have been, the early 90s, not the late 90s when this was produced. It could have been set in the early 90s, I suppose. But again, I don't find this that special. Everybody I know knew people that talked like this, that dropped F-bombs every other word casually. That's just the way we were at the time. So nothing outstanding about that. Half a star. I watched this movie based on reviews and word of mouth. However, this movie was so boring to me. My girlfriend told me she was bored 1 hour into, and I told her maybe it's a slow build up to something great. However, we were disappointed. I was really giving this movie a chance, and that's August 8th of 2017. I'll largely agree with that. I had heard all of these things about it, and I finished it wondering what I was missing, and watched it again later on another date, completely, a year down the road, and I still didn't get it. I still don't get it today. 3 stars, fun, entertaining, not as great as everyone had told me it was. We're in July of 2017. 2.5 stars, another classic letdown, nothing really impressive about it. Okay. Again, people like me that just don't get what all the hype is about. 2.5 stars. It's a very good movie, but it's having one problem. There at 59 minutes is a song which George and Christian, and it's not for comedy with, I'm not sure where they're going with that. They didn't like some particular song that wasn't in it. That's not going to help me. Let me see. 3.5 stars, July 2nd, 2017. Unfortunately, not English. Let's move on. Again, I'm going to ignore any 4 or 5-star reviews because I've seen plenty. 1 star, May 29th, 2017. Apparently, I'm not a Coen Brothers comedy fan, but I have liked some of their more serious endeavors. That said, they do write some interesting characters. Yeah. So I guess, if you're not a Coen Brothers fan, again, I found one or two of their movies good, not to the point of cult status, and this one, obviously I don't get it. Interesting characters, yeah, I think they were very good. I'll give them one thing. They were very good in this movie of characterizing characters uniquely with very small amounts of dialogue in what would be ordinary settings. Certainly a bowling alley is an ordinary setting. There's nothing extraordinary about it in this movie, and yet it works for characterizing these 3 main characters. Or 4 if you want to count John Turturro's weird character. Yeah, I'll give him credit for that. But again, I don't see why that brings this to cult status. 2 stars from April 1st of 2017. Overrated stoner movie that is slow and painfully boring. Again, another vote that you have to be stoned or that you have to be into the marijuana culture to enjoy it. Now, the thing is, in late 90s, in 1998, or even if this was set in the early 90s, there was a stoner culture, right? But the whole point of the stoner culture was that marijuana was illegal everywhere at the time. So it was its own culture. Today, obviously, all across the U.S. in different places, it's legal or at least hardly enforced as being illegal. So, yeah, the culture isn't there anymore. So maybe that's why I'm not getting it. Maybe the references to stoner culture are too outdated. Because when I was in my early, mid, even late 20s, I wasn't into stoner culture. I didn't know anybody that was a regular user of marijuana. Beer would have been our substance of choice. So we weren't into that culture. So maybe that's why it's not hitting with me. I don't know. That's a second vote for it, though. 1 star, March 23rd, 2017. Way overrated, unfunny, and very boring. Okay, I agree. It just I don't know why so many other people don't agree. Um, Again, I'm skimming through the 5 stars, and I see people saying there's no other movie like this. It's so unique. Not really. Um, 3.5 stars, January 30th, 2017. The Big Lebowski is just a story about a dude, complete with stunning performances and hilarious scenes, man. Again, they're trying to couch their words in the character of the film. So obviously they find this a cult film. This doesn't really help me. 3 stars, January 22nd, 2017. I had a friend in college who drank White Russians because of the dude. Pretty good film and hilarious at parts. Yeah, I don't have a problem with White Russians. Certainly it's not something to drink if you want to stay slim, but it's a fine drink. Why that's such an iconic thing in this, or what kind of meaning the White Russian has in the film beyond it's just a drink that the main character drinks a lot of, I don't know. That's why I'm hoping to figure that out, if there's something more to that here. But again, I see a reference to it, but I don't see an explanation for why that's worthy of memes and such. January 8th, 2017. 2.5 stars. Was really disappointed by The Big Lebowski. Mostly unfunny and repetitive. I found it hard to enjoy this one. The performances are good, Jeff Bridges is great, and John Goodman steals every scene he is in. The story from the Coen brothers had potential, although it's all very convenient and coincidental, but from a directorial point of view, they couldn't pull it off. Okay, so they're saying it's mostly unfunny and repetitive. Well, I'll agree. I didn't laugh out loud. I don't think I laughed out loud that I'm aware of. But some of it was humorous, but it wasn't enough to make me burst out in laughter like some people claim. Repetitive, yes. There's some effort in this movie to have the main character and other characters repeat a lot of lines over and over to the audience, or so that the audience can know they're repeating them. I didn't get what that was about, so that flew right over me. Although I saw that there, I just don't understand why that's supposed to, make this so great or make it funny. 3.5 stars. This is what happens, Larry, when you F a stranger in the ass. Good film. John Goodman is great in this. Didn't think it was anything special, but still worth checking out. Again, John Goodman, yeah, he's great in almost everything, because the characters he plays always talk like this. There's nothing new about it. Now, I can't recall if he was, this was the first film in 1998 that he was known for playing this type of character, but, even in movies that take themselves 100% seriously, John Goodman plays this character to an extent with the language and everything. He's known for that, so again, I don't see what's so fantastic here that you can't find other places. I don't get it. Let's move on. More 5 stars. Okay, 3 stars. November 2nd, 2016. The dude is a great character, really confusing. I don't think he's confusing. He just doesn't give a crap about anything. I've known people like that, but to me, in my mind, I want to look into, well, if they don't work, where do they get the money from, and etc. I don't think this film ever tries to explain any of that. The guy just kind of does what he wants, but how does he pay the bills and the rent? I have no clue. The movie didn't really try to explain that. 3 stars. Yeah, okay. 3.5 stars. October 30th, 2016. The Big Lebowski is funny and entertaining, but lacks empathetic characters and doesn't have much of a rewatchable value. Okay, well, that's completely the opposite. Everywhere else on the internet, they tell me they've watched this 10 times, 15 times, 25 times. They watch it on a regular basis. They watch it on special occasions. They watch it on certain holidays. So again, yeah, this is quite contrary to what I see everywhere else, but it's interesting. 2 stars, kind of boring. Coen brothers can't do it right all the time. I'll say that another movie I just don't get that I've also heard praised very much from the Coen brothers is Oh Brother, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Okay, I like George Clooney and I like the other actors, but I couldn't get through more than 20 minutes of that. I know they weren't trying to do the typical three-act story structure and all that, the cliched, the cliched but very well expected story plot. They weren't trying to do that. Well, I couldn't get through 20 minutes of it. I don't know where it was going exactly. I don't know what the point of it was. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it anything really. I just found it boring. So again, I seriously doubt they do it right all the time, because I can think of at least one other movie that I don't get, as just like I don't get this. However, people aren't like continually praising that movie like they are this one. That's why I'm doing it, my contrary look on this one. 3 stars, October 21st, 2016. While I did enjoy the movie for the most part, it wasn't until the movie finished that I just felt empty by the ending. Like, what was the point in it all? I'm glad I watched The Big Lebowski, though, and as I said, I did still enjoy it for the most part. The ending just fell flat, in my opinion. Yeah, there's a line in this that people keep quoting from The Big Lebowski, from the dude, where he says, well, man, that's just your opinion. You see it in memes, you see it all over the internet. Again, I don't see why it's such a big deal. It doesn't resonate with me. I recognize it for what it is, but I don't get it, the humor in it. That was a reference to it, though, in that review. Let's see what we have here. 1.5 stars, October 2016. Not sure what the hype on this thing is. Terrible movie. John Goodman was solid as always. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Half a star, September 2016. Dumbest movie I ever saw. Lame, lame, lame. Again, they probably heard the hype, watched it, and was, they were just like, what, WTF? Again, September 2016, 1 star. Why this movie is famous? Yeah, exactly. I'm looking for more of these, but I'd like some more detail on why they thought it was bad. July 25th, 2016, 1 star. Movie is a waste of time and makes no sense. Overrated. Okay. July 2016, half a star. Horrible, and it's probably Spanish. So unfortunately, there's a lot there, but I can't read it. July 2016, 3.5 stars. The Big Lebowski has many problems, including its crime elements that are either boring or uninspired, as well as its overlong running time and forgettable supporting characters. But the main characters are great, the humor is mostly good, the dialogue is pretty solid, and the film is quite authentic in some areas, especially those dream sequences that are some of the highlights here. In the end, it is solid but disappointing. Yeah, I'll largely agree with that. The dream sequence thing, that's unique, but again, it doesn't work for me. I don't get why it's interesting. It's just weird, like any dream would be weird. Yeah, it's like bowling alley imagery put in there. Again, it's just, I don't get why it's so fantastic. I understand what it is. It doesn't strike me as being iconic, although I do remember it. Let's move down. Half a star, May 19th, 2016. What a waste of time watching this stupid movie. Again, probably somebody that heard the hype and tried. 2.5 stars. I'll give this one the credit of being absurd, but I cannot say I enjoy it with the rest of its cult following. The dialogue was funny at times, but mostly was just Jeff Bridges rambling on, or John Goodman yelling about his service in Vietnam. To be honest, I felt like I.e. as in drugs while watching the film. None of it made any sense. It had its amusing moments, don't get me wrong, but I'll leave this cult classic in the past. Yeah, I largely agree with that. John Goodman, had a lot to say about Vietnam, but at the same time, he didn't say anything. Like, he didn't give us he didn't tell us anything about it, but he had things to say about it, if you will. It's hard for me to better articulate that. Like, if the director were trying to get a message to me about Vietnam, I didn't get it, but one of the characters, like, acted like he wanted to give a message of some type. It was on his mind a lot. 3.5 stars. My third favorite Coen Brothers film. I still think that Oh Brother is their best work, and Raising Arizona has a special place with me because it used to run all summer on HBO in the 80s. I enjoy this flick, it's just fun. Goodman and Bridges are perfect cast. It's one thing the Coens do, it's cast uncannily well and create such intoxicating characters you can't take your eyes off. And a great soundtrack as well, which fits perfect with the film. The dude abides. The soundtrack, I don't recall anything of it. I just don't recall anything being memorable about the soundtrack, so I'm kind of disagreeing on that one. 2.5 stars, May 4th, 2016. Finally watched it. It is a very average film, thus average score. Was not even funny. If not for the cast, I would have scored it 2 stars. Yeah, I'll largely agree. I'm not going to score a movie just on the cast, and so that's why I gave it 2 stars. Let's see, 2 stars, April 19th, 2016. This is officially the last Coen Brothers movie I have watched. It's useless. Everyone says their movies are masterpieces, but I find the something more than crap movies. I give up. Never see you again, Coens. Yeah, I can see that. If you watched like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and you watched No Country for Old Men, and then you watched this, you would probably be wondering why you keep putting yourself through it. So anyway, April 12th, 2016, 2.5 stars. I know that this has a very passionate fan base, and I respect their opinions wholeheartedly, but I personally did not find the film too enjoyable. I know that the overall joke of the film is that none of the events in the film really had a point, but that just ends up boring me since the film is intentionally not having a point, and when there is no point, I'm bored. I find the Big Lebowski slow, dragging, and not all that amazing, although the performances were great overall. Sorta, kinda, meh. Yeah, I'll largely agree with that. Although I didn't get the idea that it had no point, because it did have a plot with plot points in it, but it didn't have a message. Like it didn't like have some kind of overarching thing you were supposed to take away from it. So I'm guessing it just doesn't have a yeah, it doesn't have a message. It's more accurate, but it does have a plot. Stuff happens. Let's see what we have here. We got 4 stars. I won't do that. 4 stars, 5 stars. Oh, a whole page. Okay. I don't even know how many pages we've gone, but we're more than a dozen pages in. I know that. Here we go. 3 stars, January 11th, 2016. Offbeat and awkwardly funny film. I really liked the LC3 chairs and sofas in Maud Lebowski's home. I don't remember that at all, but I do remember that Maud Lebowski made her appearance by, she's some kind of artist that paints by, being in a harness and swinging over a canvas and then flinging paint from brushes. It's quirky, but it's not funny. Like, I didn't laugh. I just found it quirky and strange, and I didn't know what to make of it. I don't know if there's some message to that or not, but so far nobody's told me there was supposed to be one. Let's move on. 3.5 stars, December 5th, 2015. Finally saw it. There's some really good laugh hard moments, so worth watching in spite of a few too long John Goodman tirades. Well, that's like the opposite of what people have told me. Really good laugh hard moments. No, I didn't get any of that. And John Goodman, like, he did a great job. He wasn't boring at all. But he's never boring. Like, he's always playing the same type of character, and it's never boring. It is what he does, and he's good at it. Let's see, 3.5 stars at the bottom here, November 7th, 2015. I am surprised I like the movie so much because just 3 years ago I would have found it so boring. I guess I am more open than I was before. It is a great movie for me because of the dude and oh, shut up, Donnie. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you were drinking more this time or something. I mean, he didn't say that, so I don't know why. I've heard people say this, that they've watched this like 5 times, and then on their 6th or 7th viewing, all of a sudden it was just laugh out loud funny. I don't get that at all. I don't see how that works with this film, but it doesn't work anywhere else. It's just weird to me. Half a star, October 18th, 2015. Just completely missed the mark as a movie for me. I've heard that this movie is about how insignificant all stories in life are. They may overlap or have nothing to do with one another, but the point is that they happen. I've also heard this story compared to Burn After Reading, another Coen Brothers film which I do like. However, the main difference between the two films is that the narrative does have a resolution. This film has nothing gained and nothing lost other than time. Well, that's funny because I have this exact same description from the movie Burn After Reading. I don't even remember anything about it because I watched it and I'm sure I got through the whole thing somehow, but it was completely pointless and forgettable to me. And yeah, another film that I probably would have fallen asleep if I hadn't been wide awake during the early part of the day watching it. Um, I don't have a feeling that it rubbed me the wrong way or I disliked it or it insulted me in any way. I just completely find it forgettable. I just briefly I remember that Brad Pitt was in Burn After Reading, and I don't remember what else. I just know he played an annoyingly wacky character that was in possession of some kind of like a USB stick that had some secret spy stuff on it or something. Anyway, that's all I remember about it, and otherwise completely forgettable. This reviewer saying that he really liked that one, but this one really sucked and was forgettable. Okay, I think they're both like that personally, but 3 stars, as I thought, interesting but overrated. Okay, but why 3 stars? I guess it was that interesting. Okay, let's continue on and see what nuggets I can find. We are in September 20th of 2015. Definitely a great cast, 2 stars, that jumped on board for this one, but I have to say that I personally just didn't get into really. After hearing so much about it for years, it just didn't do it for me. I've loved other films from the Coen brothers, but not this one. I just didn't get it. It had some fun moments of satire, but not enough for me. Yeah, I'll largely agree with that one. 3 stars, September 2nd, 2015. Why is this such a classic? I had expected to get something hilarious, but this is just silly, predictable, and hardly funny. I guess my expectations were way too high. Yeah, that could be. I mean, you just hear so much about this movie, how iconic it is. You see it in memes. People just like give you these witty one-liners that they've pulled from this movie. They've extracted this as though it's some nugget of wisdom they're giving you. And then you watch it and you're like, well, I'm not sure what the big deal was. So here we are, 2.5 stars, August 20th, 2015. A step down for the Coen brothers, whom I believe are some of the best filmmakers working today. The Big Lebowski is unfortunately bogged down by a convoluted, uneven, and at times, frankly, unnecessary story, but is partially redeemed by 2 great performances from Jeff Bridges and a show-stealing John Goodman. Yeah, again, this is what John Goodman does. He's the same in almost everything. Um, I don't know about them being the best filmmakers working as of 2015. I think, they have other movies that can't barely remember the plots or what was going on in them. Um, yeah, bogged down by convoluted, uneven, and at times unnecessary story. Yeah, like, for example, the trip to Maud Lebowski's art studio. Yeah, I don't get it. And also the doing the dream sequences more than once with the bowling alley aesthetic. Again, don't get it. To me, it's like what I've said about other films, wasted footage. 3 stars, August 11th, 2015. I really don't know what the big fuss is about this film. It has some humorous parts, but it's far from hilarious. Yeah, exactly. I agree. That's why I give it 2 stars. It's not even enough for me to say it was, outstanding enough for me to put 3 stars on this thing. Um, well, we have 3.5 stars, a line from the movie. 2.5 stars, July 25th, 2015. Not sure. Okay. Not sure what the big deal was about this movie. I mean, Jeff Bridges was funny and constantly drinking White Russians, but oftentimes they don't really understand some cult classics such as this. It was a 1 thumb up for me on this one. Yeah, I disagree though. Most times when you tell me something's a cult classic, I do understand why. A lot of times I agree with it. In fact, almost every time, it's just this movie I don't get why this is a cult classic. That's why I'm here. Yeah, he's constantly drinking White Russians. That's why I wonder if there's some meaning to this, but nobody's told me that there is. 1 star, July 25th, 2015. I tried to see the charm in the Big Lebowski, but just couldn't find it. This movie is just way too bizarre. I understand that the Coen brothers are the Coen brothers because of their unique style, but the mindless rambling of this script feels like a waste of time when compared with the Oscar-winning script of Fargo a year earlier. It is unfortunate to see a quality cast that includes Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Julianne Moore, and Philip Seymour Hoffman used to create such a mediocre result. Yeah, I had almost forgotten that Fargo was a Coen Brothers movie. And I had forgotten that it came out, if that's true, that it came out a year before this, because I actually enjoyed that in a weird way. I didn't find it boring. I found it kind of like a weird, dark sense of humor to me. I don't think it's a cult classic, though. I could be wrong in that, but I don't see it. I don't see Fargo referenced very often online. Not anything like I see the Big Lebowski referenced. Everybody knows the wood chipper scene from Fargo. Everybody knows that. It's iconic. So certainly there is something that resonates about that movie. In this one, I just don't get it. For me, yeah, there's bowling alley imagery, but nothing iconic comes out of it like that wood chipper did in Fargo. That's why I'm here. 1 star, yeah, another person that just couldn't see the charm in this one, if you want to call it charm. 2.5 stars, July 18th, 2015. The Coen brothers are synonymous with dejected atmospheres, strange characters, and unusual plot lines. They are not a pair of directors that resonate with many because their films often remain on one level and never change tone or break the mold. However, the genius of the Coen brothers is that, with The Big Lebowski, they completely broke any mold in cinema and created a bizarre, outrageous, and memorable, yet unfortunately baffling film. The film's peculiar plot involves a mix of ransom. Yeah, these the Coen brothers movies, like, they are not conventional, but some of them I find enjoyable. Why this one is so iconic and cult-like in status, I still don't get it. Let's move on. 2 stars, July 14th, 2015. Unemployed man gets tangled into a kidnapping scam after being confused for a man with the same last name. Popular cult film just never lived up to its reputation for me. Gathers a bit of momentum at times only to fizzle out. Did like the Folgers crystals earned from the mortuary, their most economical option. I've heard this one gets better with additional viewing, so I'll consider watching it again down the road. Yeah, a lot of people tell me that, they didn't get this until they saw it multiple times. That's why I have seen it twice. But hey, I'm not going to watch it more than twice if I don't get anything more on the second time, and I didn't. So let's move on. July 13th, 2015. 3.5 stars. Very good movie, but not as good as the hype. Goodman's performance was outstanding. Yes, nobody's going to argue John Goodman was bad in this, but he plays the same type of character in everything. Okay, pretty much. Let's see, July 3rd, 2015, 3.5 stars. LOL, I thought it was pretty funny, but left a few plot holes in the story. I don't remember plot holes because it's trying to be convoluted and it's trying to be like a film noir type thing. The plot holes, if it just had plot holes, I might still find it funny and hilarious and whatever. But no, I don't find it pretty funny is the problem, for one thing. Let's see. June 20th, 2015, 1 star. I didn't think it was funny. It was occasionally interesting, but I was mostly bored and almost didn't finish it. 1 viewing. Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of get that. I say 2 because I get the humor in a lot of it. It just wasn't laugh out loud funny to me. Let's see. Let's see what we can find. How long this takes to show me. 2 stars, May 31st, 2015. A lifeless, pointless, weird movie, though it was genuinely funny at times. Okay. Um, May 22nd, 2015, 3 stars. The Big Dumbkowski. I cannot stand Sam Elliott, particularly in the opening sequence when he wouldn't shut up with that plastic folksy drawl. Yeah, he's like the one character that is completely out of place in this, sitting at the bar. And there's so many memes about him saying, dude, I like your style or whatever. Again, you see this meme everywhere. It has no effect on me because, yeah, Sam Elliott, he does a good job in movies that he belongs in. He doesn't belong in this one, and I don't find it funny that he's in a place he doesn't belong in this one. I didn't get what was so funny about that. Um, 3.5 stars, May 17th, 2015. A unique comedy that shows the perspective of funny, dumb characters taking a serious event. Visually stunning scenes and memorable performance from unique characters. The Great Lebowski might look like a simple comedic movie, but after finishing it, audience slowly realizes the great layer behind it. So here we're saying that you have to see the layers underneath it, and that it's visually stunning. Um, I disagree on visually stunning. There's nothing visually stunning about bowling alleys, and everything else was in, like, say, for example, a supermarket. There's nothing visually stunning about that. So I completely disagree. Memorable performance from unique characters, yes, okay, sure. But visually stunning, and there's layers under this to see, great layers behind it. Again, it's like, you're trying to make this into some film school, I don't know, project, but I don't see any of that. I didn't laugh out loud. I don't get it. So I'm moving on. April 30th, 2015, 3.5 stars. Whether you hate it for the loose ends or love it for the Coen brothers' charm, there's still no denying the all-around good time you have when watching Donnie, Walter, and Dude light up the screen. They don't light it up that much. Yeah, they work well together. They have, in a very small amount of dialogue, they're characterized very well. Again, I don't see what's so special about it or how this is so iconic. I don't get it, so let's move on. April 24th, 2015, 2 stars. I just don't like it. Okay. Again, I'm not actually saying I don't like it. I'm just saying I don't get why it's such a cult movie. 3 stars, April 21st, 2015. Entertaining if overrated. The Big Lebowski is quite the interesting picture with commendable acting, great cinematography, and a very art house sort of feel to it. It's also the perfect film for those who may be looking to watch a decent film to pass the time. Side note, as Walter Sobchak, John Goodman, is the best part of the entire film. Well, again, even if that's true, if John Goodman's character is the best part, that's just like not the whole movie, man. You know what I'm saying? So let's move on. 3.5 stars, April 13th, 2015. There are a not insignificant number of absolutely classic movies that I have somehow missed up to this point in my life. The Big Lebowski was one of the more egregious examples. Why are they trying to be so wordy in these reviews? Even the pacing of their writing, yeah, they're using big words, but when you read the way some of these people write, it's like they're not very good writers just because they use big words. I know what these words mean, but they read like you don't know how to put them together nicely. But anyway, let's not detour into that. I'll continue. Was until now, keeping in mind that I have lived half my life being bombarded by slobbering praise and endless quotes from this cult classic, I tried to watch with as open a mind as I possibly could, taking special care to guard against too lofty of expectations. Having said all that, it is pretty damn funny. So you're saying it's overrated? Okay, great, but you rambled on for so long in that paragraph, you didn't get to your point, I guess. Let's move along. 3 stars, April 9th, 2015. I don't like this movie like anybody else, but I enjoyed it. If you ask me what is the best thing about this movie, I would say the Dude and Walter. Okay, so again, the characters, but why are they so iconic? I don't know. Again, I've seen people like this in the real world. It's not like nobody's ever thought of characters like this before. 3 stars, April 4th, 2015. The Big Lebowski is a big turn from the Coens' previous film Fargo, one of my favorite dramas of all time. It's an extremely odd and spun-out tale of a trio of stoners retrieving a stained rug back, and it's a masterpiece to some and stupidity for others. Myself, it's good but extremely overrated. Jeff the Dude Lebowski, a stoner with a love of bowling with his dysfunctional buddies, gets a taste of infamy when he is confused for a cranky, disabled millionaire of the same name. Just reading the plot, breaking the plot down to what the plot consists of, it does sound like something that would be an interesting comedy, but yet I didn't find anything particularly laugh out loud funny about this. That's the thing. April 2nd, 2015, 3.5 stars, Netflix pick of the week, a classic that never gets old no matter how many times you see it. The dude is the real dudester among a world of wannabe dudesters. Watch and learn the way of the dude. Again, people are finding some kind of philosophy in this. I don't get it. Yeah, a guy like just didn't go to work and just did what he wanted, and he liked to do White Russians. I don't see why that's some kind of philosophy. Moving down, lots more 4 and 5 star reviews. Moving to yet another page. Let's see, 4-star reviews, 5 stars, 4 stars. Well, we're well into like 20 plus pages. I lost count. Okay, January 11th, 2015, 2.5 stars. Unusual comedy which doesn't appeal. Okay. January 4th, 2015, 3 stars. What a bizarre movie. Impressed by Bridges and Goodman's portrayal of hapless losers slackers, though. Okay. I don't know if anybody else in the film was a slacker other than the dude. Like, John Goodman's character, like, it certainly didn't show him going to work. It just showed him when he was at the bowling alley. But was he there all the time, or was he unemployed like the dude? Nah, I didn't get that from the movie. So, really, the dude's the only guaranteed slacker here. Everybody else could have had careers outside the bowling alley. 2.5 stars. December 19th, 2014, pretty much nonsense. Okay. Another one in 2014, 2.5 stars. Review in a nutshell. My previous viewing of The Big Lebowski let my feelings on the middle of the fence, unsure of whether or not my experience was an enjoyable one. The second time around did help me understand the elements that I did and did not like about this film, but it did not put me in a state of gratification that many seem to find from this film. The Big Lebowski is definitely a fun film, and arguably it is the brothers in their most playful, though I have yet to see Raising Arizona or Burn After Reading. And sadly, well, they're saying they really don't like this, and they saw it a second time around, and I guess it didn't improve too much for them. I can't argue that. I saw it twice. The second time was quite deliberate because of all the praise. And I would never be motivated to write a 5 or 4 star review or even a 3-star review anywhere. But there's plenty of them here. October 17th, 2014, 1.5 stars. I just don't get why this is such a well-loved movie. I was bored throughout the entire movie. That's me. 2.5 stars. It has a funny premise and some talented stars, but The Big Lebowski is few on its laughs, and at least for me. Yeah, I found humorous parts, but I wasn't laughing particularly hard. In fact, I didn't laugh out loud once, so let's move on. Yet more 4 and 5 star reviews. Here's one, September 27th, 2014. 3 stars, an offbeat and darkly comic Coen Brothers cult classic that has a lot more on its mind than you may think. Maybe it does, but again, most people that liked this even agree that the film doesn't really have a point to it. So if there's something on the mind, I'm not sure what that is. It eluded me. 3.5 stars, September 16, 2014. The dialogue's good, the acting's good, even though the story may seem to go nowhere sometimes. The story went nowhere, period, actually. And that's not from a negative standpoint, that's just what happened. September 8th, 2014, 3 stars. John Goodman's character was great, and it was fun seeing Philip Seymour Hoffman in a comedy role, but the film as a whole was pretty stupid. There was no real plot to speak of, which was disappointing considering the talent of the cast. I think the biggest problem for me was the Bridges character. while mildly amusing at times, was a complete buffoon, which made it impossible to take the story seriously. Yeah, I didn't find the dude was so implausible that it took me out of the story, but I didn't find it completely funny either. I just found it like quirky, I guess. Um, Lots more 4 and 5 stars. 2 stars, August 15th, 2014. Dude, a big disappointment, man. So I finally got around to watching it, and I found it to be little more than a collection of hilarious, memorable quotes. But that's it. The only memorable moments from the movie are short quotes, not the plot or anything that matters in a movie. So yeah, that's the impression you would get if you were on some random internet forum, like Reddit or wherever, and you came across people just dropping Big Lebowski quotes in response to things, which is what you find even today in 2019. And yeah, maybe the whole movie is just that. Maybe it's just the whole purpose was to produce a film that could be mined for many years to find memeable quotes. Um, that's what it comes across as, really. So I kind of agree in a way on that. Um, that's not fair though, because this was made in '98 when a lot of people didn't have, they had some dial-up internet access, and some parts they had cable modems, ISDN, but they weren't on YouTube, and they weren't on Snapchat, and they weren't on Reddit. So it wasn't made for that in mind, but that's what it's become, I guess, over the decades. More 4 and 5 star posts. So maybe I'm going to call it on this because I have yet to discover the secret of the Big Lebowski. Other than that, it is very quotable, one-line quotes for memes, and I still don't get it. Audience score 94%. If I had to give it my honest opinion, I feel that, to me, I would feel that the audience score would be fair at about, I don't know, 60 to 65%. Not rotten, but on the edge, on the very edge of being rotten. So with that said, and with some other films in mind that I might take the same approach to, I will see you again on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.